SHIN DC and the NAACP partnered with the Embassy of Israel and others to launch our Female Voices of Freedom initiative to support the empowerment of women and combat hate back in March. However, we had to postpone a related International Women's Day event because of the global pandemic. You mentioned how public diplomacy has played a role in connecting first responders. How has your department's work changed with the global pandemic? And how do you, and I think you've began to touch on some of this, of how you can engage in public and cultural diplomacy under the social distancing measures related to the pandemic. So can you tell us a little bit more about how your work has changed, and have there been any unexpected advantages that have arisen from adapting to those limitations?
Definitely. Yeah, I think we spoke about the beginning. One, being distanced. I go into the office a couple of times a week, but I'm the only person here from my team and one of the very, very few people in the embassy. So actually getting used to working as a team when you're not physically together, even being able to have Zoom calls. And we spoke about it, and we saw, I'm sure all of you saw very, very funny incidents, let's call them, of people on Zoom calls who didn't realize that their video was still on or that their audio was still on. And I myself, we had a big meeting last week, at the end of last week, with the ambassador and everybody else via Zoom. And I'm sidetracking, but I'll get back. And my cat was meowing. So I picked him up to calm him down. So everybody saw me petting a cat, like Dr. No or somebody. Or all the other evil characters, but petting my cat during the meeting. And afterwards, I thought he calmed down. And then after I spoke, it was mentioned to me that they kept on hearing the cat meow while I was speaking. So, even getting to these, he was very interested, the cat. So it's even getting through these like little obstacles, and how do we do it? But definitely still, I'll start with the personal and then go out a bit. For us as a team, how, I can't stop by somebody's office, or I can't go and say, hey, what's happening? What are we doing with this and this? You have to consciously make an effort to connect to people. So for our team, we're about 10 people working together. We're getting used to how to do it and how to work. And it's interesting. And now I think all of us have a rhythm of how to work, whether from half home, half the embassy, or just from the embassy, and keep people updated. But it took a while to get used to. And it's interesting because now where you have to make an effort to keep in contact with the people near you, you sometimes forget, at least for me, to keep in contact with the people far away from me. So I feel I've been online so much, I forget, we mentioned my parents, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I didn't call my parents, because I felt, I was online so much, I forgot to call, or somebody from my ministry in Israel. But it's also nice in a way, because I see the people in my ministry in the headquarters in Jerusalem. I've seen them this past month and a half, actually saw them like on screen more than I've seen them for the past 2 years since I've been here. We've had more contact, talking on the phone and via Zoom and other media, more again in this month and a half than for the past 2 years. So it actually, in some ways, it brought me closer to my coworkers and, bosses over in Israel. And also personally for Leila Seder, for the Seder, for celebrating Pesach. I wasn't, or me and my family weren't the only ones who weren't joining at the table. Nobody was joining at the table. We all had to, we had a family Zoom, and everybody had their table in their house with all the food. So in a way, I felt more connected or more part of this year's celebration than I did last year, when everybody was together and they called me and my kids and, my husband, and we were watching everybody else. Now everybody in the house, but in the same boat that we are. So in a way, to get back to your answer, Ephraim, there are a lot of issues and, learning how to connect in this disconnected world. But on the other hand, it really did totally, I think, or almost totally erase the issue of geography. I can suddenly bring speakers to events that are happening that, you know, a few months ago, the person in Ohio or the person in Florida would have told me, look, if the person isn't coming to us physically, then I'd rather not have the lecture. Now everybody's very happy to be interviewing, you know, me or a person from Israel without us being physically there. So in some ways, it's actually made public diplomacy more expandable or able to reach a larger audience, a different audience, more people by numbers than we would have had you and I had this talk with, let's say, 10 people joining us, whether in the embassy or in a coffee shop or somewhere else. And here, the mention of the amazing event that would have been lovely, and I'm still hoping that we will do it, especially because of the dessert bar that you planned. I know it's charoset, but I'm up for anything sweet. With the NAACP, it would have been a very well-attended event, I'm sure, but none of us would have thought to Zoom that event or Facebook Live it, right? So we would have reached 50, 60, 100 people. But think about it, if we now continue what we've learned during these months, if we have the event with physical people, hopefully one day soon, and stream it on Facebook, it's amazing. We wouldn't have thought about it 2 months ago.
Exactly.
So, you know, and there's a lot of suffering going on with Corona, and I'm not in any way, the positive things that I'm mentioning or aspects don't go to, you know, belittle the sick people and the deaths and people losing their job, both in the US and in Israel, and the economic situation. There's a lot of issues that we will have to deal with now and for the next few months and in the future as well, the effects of this virus. But there are some things, especially in a way in connecting, that I hope will continue with us once this is over.
Right. Very much agree and look forward to working on some of that together.